Yo, what's going on, guys? Mush back at it with another video. We got a couple of things to talk about in this video, including abysmal sales for Star Wars Battlefront 2, as well as an update to the PS3 emulator, which is making even more progress. It's been progressing at an insane rate, so more on that in a little bit. First of all, let's talk about the Battlefront 2 sales, and they are abysmal. If you guys are somehow living under a rock and you don't know, Battlefront 2 had a lot of controversy surrounding it due to everything that was going on with microtransactions and loot boxes. We're at the point there was so much animosity directed at EA, from myself included, that they actually removed all microtransactions from Battlefront 2 for the time being, but that didn't save face for Battlefront 2. The damage had already been done, and the game's sales are looking to be pretty bad. Star Wars Battlefront 2 in the US sold only 882,000 copies in its debut month. Maybe on the surface that sounds like a big number, but it really isn't. This is a game that should have well exceeded 1 million. And the game it's being compared a lot to is the Call of Duty World War II sales, which sold a staggering 4.4 million copies in comparison. If you told me back when Star Wars Battlefront was announced and the type of potential this franchise had being revived, I wouldn't have said that it could have surpassed Call of Duty, but I would have said that it would have gotten pretty damn close. But EA has done a tremendous job in just burying this franchise 6 feet under. It's actually amazing. I know it's EA and we shouldn't expect better from them, but honestly, 882,000 copies, that far behind Call of Duty World War II. Yet another potentially big franchise that was hindered by EA, and I say yet another because we had Titanfall 2 last year, which was a phenomenal game by Respawn Studios, and for whatever reason, that game was hindered in a different way because it was released right around the same time as Battlefield 1, which why in God's name would you do that? I don't know, but that was a terrific first-person shooter, and that got buried too. With Star Wars Battlefront 2, what EA did was a lot more egregious, and it reminds me a lot of what Microsoft initially did with the Xbox One. Remember that always online DRM, no used games, all that stuff. And then they eventually took all that back, but the damage had already been done, and then the PlayStation 4 went on to destroy the Xbox One. That's exactly what Star Wars Battlefront 2 reminds me of, and I don't know if this series can recover. There's been so much damage done to it. So it's gonna take a lot for this series to hit the heights that I think many gamers thought it had the potential to do so. But think about that. Battlefront 2 sold only about 20% the copies of Call of Duty World War II. Now, World War II did have a little bit of a head start because it was released earlier, but still, that is a colossal difference, and the head start doesn't make up for that, not even in the least bit. On a positive note, NPD does report that November video game sales are up 9% over a year ago, so overall, the gaming industry is doing very well. It's just Star Wars Battlefront 2, the damage has been done, and that game and the series in general is gonna need some help. If the next game is gonna be a title that rivals a lot of the other big heavy hitters, there's no excuse why Star Wars Battlefront 2 doesn't sell over 1 million in the US in its first month. That's just crazy to me. When you talk about the caliber of series that Battlefront has the potential to be, it's just mind-boggling to me. But now I'm getting a little bit redundant, but it's just a shame what's happened to Battlefront. But let's move right along to the PlayStation 3 emulator. RPCS3 has seen another progress report for what they've done in the month of November, and this comes straight from the blog post over on rpcs3.net. I'll leave a link for that down below in the description box. And November saw a lot of improvements for a lot of games playable on RPCS3. There's a chart available, and now the games that do nothing on RPCS3 is only 141. Games that'll go in-game are at 969, intro is at 998, and loadable is at 333. Playable games are at 569, in-game is at 969, games that can hit their intro are at 998, loadable is at 333, and nothing is down to 141, and they're estimating by the end of the year, nothing will be at less than 100. This is insane to me because I've said it before, if you don't know, the PlayStation 3 was built using a cell architecture that developers absolutely hated developing for. It was extremely powerful for the time that it was released, however, also very difficult to develop on, but that's why you see exclusive titles such as the Uncharted games and The Last of Us. They look amazing on the PlayStation 3 for a last-gen console, but a lot of the multi-platform titles that weren't solely developed for the PS3 don't look as good. So I always thought we would never see a PS3 emulator, but RPCS3 is making insane progress, and now we have improved performance in games like Uncharted 1, 2, 3, the God of War titles, Ratchet & Clank, Little Big Planet, Infamous, and it is pretty amazing. I've always said that emulators is one of the best elements to PC gaming. You've got so many great emulators with the Wii emulator and Dolphin. You can play GameCube games on that too. The PlayStation 2 emulator, PCSX2, is great, and you've got emulators for a lot of the historic consoles as well, the Super Nintendo, PS1, PS1, and you can play all of those games. Obviously, whenever I talk about emulators, the legality issues come into play, but a lot of these games we've already paid for once. They're not being sold on PC, they're not being sold in general, so I don't really think it's that big of an issue. But RPCS3 is just making insane progress in a very short amount of time, and it really began in January thanks to Patreon support and full-time employment of the developer. At that point, they had less than 100 games that were playable, and now they're at 569. That's absolutely ridiculous. And maybe by the end of 2018, early 2019, this is gonna be a real thing, and a lot of games are gonna be playable. Fingers crossed, because if PC gamers can open the doors to being able to play PS3 games, we are increasing our library by so much it's not even funny. And for people like me, that I've bought a lot of PlayStation 3 games back in the day. I bought The Last of Us, I bought all of the Uncharted games, I bought the Ratchet and Clank games. I don't see it as a big deal if I want to play the games on my PC, and I'm pretty sure I have the games on disc somewhere in my garage. But yeah, the PlayStation 3 emulator is making ridiculous progress. I can't wait for this to be accessible to everybody, because emulation is freaking fantastic and one of the best elements to PC gaming. So that's gonna wrap up this video, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What do you think about Star Wars Battlefront 2 absolutely bombing? And let me know your thoughts on a PS3 emulator. What are your favorite PS3 games, and what games would you love to revisit on PC with RPCS3? And if you have a request for a future video, you can obviously leave that in the comment section down below, and I will catch you guys in the next one. Peace out.